On the shore stood Hiawatha, turned and waved his hand at parting. On the clear and luminous water, launched his birch canoe for sailing. From the pebbles of the margin, shoved it forth into the water, whispered to it, westward, westward, and with speed it darted forward. Farewell forever, O Hiawatha. My name is Angie Williams, and 3 years ago I started a project on Hiawatha. It was inspired by a class I had at Michigan State University. It was Early American Theater History, and my assignment was to find anything in early American history that related to the theater, and I thought it would be wonderful to do something from the area that I was from. And I remembered growing up hearing about a Hiawatha pageant, but I never really knew what it was. This inspired me to start research on Hiawatha. I went to the library and started looking through old newspapers, and there was nothing. I couldn't find any information, and I realized how much history had been lost, that no one knew where this pageant was, who wrote it, who started it, who performed in it. So I wanted to find that out, and my mother, Emma Williams, started kind of as a partner and helped me dig back into the past. And we together went out on foot and literally found the place where this used to be. We walked down old railroad tracks, through dirt. We found the stone where the train came in and all the people got off. And from old pictures, we were able to locate where we thought the stage had been and the great grandstand they had in back, which is now Barney's Pond.
The Indian people from the area participated along with the Canadian people from Canada, and it's a good setting, you know. It's on natural setting on the lake, and of course the grandstands was over on the other side over there. And so they got full view of the people along through where I'm sitting through here was a simulated village. And that village was set up, and they came around the point here with their canoes. And so that's why it looks so natural in the pictures that way, because of the use of the natural setting without any props, you know.
My married name is Gladys Whaley, and I live at Bort.
And you're how old?
And I am now 91. And I remember distinctly when I was 10 years old of taking what we called the dummy on the GR&I Railroad and going out to Round Lake. And while we were there, we saw the play Hiawatha.
And what do you remember about the play?
And what I remember so distinctly about the play, it was all about the story of Hiawatha. But what I remember so well is when the lover who had been rejected jumped off in this big round pond. And we were sure that he drowned.
But he didn't.
But he didn't. It was camouflaged somehow or other, and he landed next to the pond. But at the time, we were so sure that he had drowned, and we wondered where they were going to get another Indian to play that same part.
And do you remember anything?
The wooden bleachers belonged to the GR&I Railroad, and that's where we sat while we watched the play Hiawatha. And then after we had run all over the grounds and seen the play Hiawatha, we took the dummy back to Petoskey. We had spent a full day and everyone was very tired. So I went to the play probably 5 or 6 times. Loved it every time.
So I think not only were your tourists that were coming in for the one season, but your residents all along the shoreline from the summer associations of Weequatonson, Harbor Point, Bayview, they would all attend the performance. And also out on Walloon Lake, Dr. Hemingway took his family out to the performance. I remember reading in one of the periodicals here that Ernest Hemingway enjoyed the performance, and it must have had some impact on him personally, because he went back that fall and memorized the epic poem and recited it to his class that winter. I know he had a wonderful relationship with the Indians in the community, and I'm sure that that was quite an honor to his Indian friends that he was able to do that for them.
This is a view of a huge outdoor theater from the stage area. Craft shops and rooms were built underneath the theater seats. They had a coffee room and the lobby, which was furnished with fur and rush rugs and artifacts belonging to Mr. Armstrong. Yes, some of them lived in teepees, and I believe they had quite a large domed house, you might call it, where perhaps several families lived.
That's filled with pine needles that they would sell out there at the pageant, and you can still smell the pine in there after 80 years. A breath of nature, Petoskey, Michigan, and then once again it'll be advertising the Hiawatha pageant on the pillow.
That was Ella Petoskey Chief Petoskey's granddaughter.
Performances were transferred over to the other side of the bay, and they performed them in the Ottawa Stadium. And at that time, the local Indian community was able to have a little more control over the pageant. So at that time, the Ottawa Indians took over the performances. And I think it was at that time that Ella Petoskey was given the honor of being Minnehaha.
It was a good feeling because it was out in the woods, out on the Mother Earth, you know. You didn't have to add everything. Everything was there already, you know. Fact is, probably had to take some trees away, if anything, you know.
One of the most valuable things I learned through this research paper was how important it is to make sure that you record history and you know what happened and you go back and talk to the people that actually were there and experienced it. Because if we don't make an effort to do this, then it'll be lost forever.
Our tribal ancestors from this part of Mother Earth received teachings embodied within the Nanaboju stories told by the Anishinabek, the elders. We learned how to care for one another and the value of living in harmony and living with respect for all the beings of creation. These stories were collected by the men who came to live amongst us. Henry Schoolcraft was one of these men. His collected material was used by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow as he began to write an epic poem with the working title Manaboju. As the work progressed, the title and the hero of the epic was renamed Hiawatha. The book was published as the Song of Hiawatha in 1855. After surviving literary criticism that the author had plagiarized the poem from the Finnish epic the Kalevala, the Song of Hiawatha became very widely popular. Subsequently, theatrical performances were presented in various locations around the country. We are here today to celebrate the unveiling of a state of Michigan historical marker placed in honor of the Hiawatha pageants that were staged here at Round Lake for many years. Local Odawa and Ojibwe performed in the events, including several of my family members. While the Hiawatha pageants ended before 1949 when I was born, the newly built Ottawa Indian Stadium in Harbor Springs was the site for a new type of summer performance. Each year the program changed, and in 1953, when I was 4, I received my first paycheck, some amount of $5, for playing Little Hiawatha. And there's one of Virgil Haynes' photographs is of my father and I sitting on the back of one of those Buick convertibles, riding in the parade before the pageant. Our tribe has survived. We survived physical attacks, legal attacks, social and political attacks, administrative neglect and indifference, and we survived long denial of our treaty-reserved rights. This marker is a testament to one aspect of our survival. Our stories live on. We not only can read them in books, but the Anishinabek, the elders, still tell them in our oral traditions. We know the true names of the hills, lakes, forests, and streams. Our people have not only had enemies, however. We have had and still have many friends with whom we live in harmony, and we share the wisdom contained in the stories that inspired this Hiawatha pageant and its historical marker. Thank you.
To the unveiling of the marker, and I've asked Mary Cummings. You can see that on this side it talks about the history of the marker and about the Canadian Louis Armstrong, who started the pageant up in Canada and then brought it down here to Round Lake. And then on this side you'll see a different text which talks about the pageant and the goes a little bit more into Longfellow's words here, as well as what the pageant might have looked like out here on Round Lake.